Welcome to the conversation. I just finished reading The Lost Ones by Adrian Kress, a book connected to Bendy and the Ink Machine. Like the first book by Kress, Dreams Come to Life. It stands on its own without the game, but adds some great detail to the game itself. The characters are likable, the story is intriguing, the writing is solid and colorful, and the ending is worth the wait. I highly recommend giving it a read. What I want to focus on is what questions the book clears up that I was left with from the game. So let's break down 5 of these questions. Like my other lore videos, this one will contain spoilers from the books and the game. I recommend completing them before watching this. You've been warned. What does the ink do to people it comes in contact with? Keep Sammy in mind as we talk about this, because we learned a lot about the ink's effects on the living things it touches. And yes, I mean living things, not just people. In the book, the 3 main characters come in contact with the ink in some way, shape, or form. Very shortly after, they all start displaying strange behaviors. One turns angry, almost unable to control her temper, and letting it fuel her actions. Another shows uncontrollable fear, shaking where he sits and running from every danger, great or small. The cause of this is the ink. This proves that the ink brings out the deeper side of all that come in contact with it. The feelings and emotions that we hide deep down inside of us come to the surface when the ink touches our skin. One's true self is on display for the world to see. This explains why Sammy is the way that he is. I have a whole video planned on Sammy because with this knowledge, I think he's worth taking another look at. The true self doesn't mean a bad side, however. The character whose hidden side is full of rage says that she is happy with the person she has become. And thinking back to Boris, aka Buddy, we know that deep down he is loyal and will do what he can to protect people. This comes into play in the story and we will touch upon it later in the video, but keep it in mind for now. What is the connection between the ink and the machine? In the book, the ink machine is moved from New York, where Joey Drew's studio is located, to Atlantic City, the home of the Gent Corporation's home offices for repairs. And guess what else made the trip to the city? The ink demon himself. Though he wasn't packed with the rest of the machine, Thomas Connor, he went back to work for Joey Drew and the machine. More on him in a different video. Makes mention on the trip to Atlantic City that he knows the demon came along for the ride. The ink demon also makes several appearances and is the main antagonist in the story. But Bendy wasn't the only one who got a free ride. Everyone's favorite loyal companion made an appearance as well. Boris, aka Buddy, saves one of the characters at the end of the book by stopping her from running out of a hallway to a watery grave. He is never seen fully by her, but she mentions an ink monster with long ears, as it's too dark to see his real form. It was such a cool moment in the book. Anyway, back to the ink monsters. Along with these 2 appearing far outside of the confines of the studio, a few of the characters describe being drawn to the machine, as if something in their minds or veins was trying to reconnect with it, was doing whatever it could to get back to the machine. It's a very interesting concept, and one that I look forward to learning more about in the second game. Oh, and don't worry, the machine was moved back to New York City at the end of the book, so nothing lore-breaking there. Number 3. What is Gent? One thing that I was really interested in reading about was more information about Gent itself, the company that Thomas Connor worked for, and the one that helped build and could repair the machine itself. Gent was headquartered in Atlantic City, but the company had offices all along the eastern seaboard. The staff in the city was a skeleton crew, as most of their employees worked at other locations. There was no doubt a good amount of Gent working in New York City. The company did more than develop machines that made monsters. They were also mechanics and engineers that repaired machines all over the cities they worked in, as demonstrated by a Gent worker coming to repair an electrical box and a projector in 2 separate locations in the city. Though the book answered a few questions about the company, there is more to it that we don't know about yet. Joey Drew and Gent are connected in a deeper way somehow, I think. When going over the machine, a character mentions that Gent and the machine must be financially backed by someone else, which we know is Joey Drew. But are finances the only connection? Is it just a machine to Gent, or are there ulterior connections? Time will tell. Number 4. Can the Lost Ones return to being human? With a title like The Lost Ones slapped on the cover of the book, you would think that we would learn a ton about the Lost Ones. Well, we learned a bit about them. How they are created, what happens to them, what goes through their mind, and most importantly, can they be cured? As a refresher, the Lost Ones are the inky beings we see around the studio in Bendy and the Ink Machine. Some standing around, some crying, some fishing, but all of them looking sadder than my niece when I say she can't have that last cookie. Breaks my heart every time. One of the characters actually turns into a Lost One about halfway through the story. Through the ink, he is able to reform himself in the bedroom of Constance, the female protagonist, an absolute badass of a person, and a scientist who made an antidote of sorts. Once taken, the Lost One returns to human form, only to realize once he gets cut that his blood is still ink. It's a short-lived remedy, reminiscent of Cinderella. As the character says, "For one night only, Brant versus the ink monster at the Top Hat nightclub." Great character. An antidote to separate the person from the ink is something I long hoped for ever since I beat Boris in Chapter 4 of the game, and saw him return to the ink, as all ink beings do when dealt a killing blow. Though the antidote was only temporary, I hope that it can be improved upon and that people can be returned to normal. Oh, bonus fun fact, I think I found one of the characters from this book in the game. When you crawl through the air ducts in Chapter 4, you may come across a Lost One who is smashing his head continuously against a wall. At first, I thought he was trying to kill himself, end it all, but now I think it's one of the characters from the book. Bill, one of the three main characters, tries to find a way for him to pass out until a future time when things make sense again, to sleep through the fear and the negative feelings and just be himself again. He thinks about drinking himself into a blackout, but then decides smashing his head against a wall would be much faster. This was after he came in contact with the ink, just so you know. He ends up having to hit his head twice against the wall, but it works. He wakes up the next morning. Bit of a headache, but he wakes up the next morning. I think that the Lost One who is slamming his head against the wall is Bill, remembering that in a past life, this was a way for him to time travel to a better time, to wake up not having these negative feelings. Maybe wake up in a better place. Number 5. Is Joey Drew really bendy? Yes, but not in the way you might be thinking. And no, I don't mean that he is the ink demon. It is clear in the game and in all the books that Joey did not use his soul to make the abomination that stalks the halls of the studio and attacks people in Atlantic City. And besides, Joey would need a soul in the first place to contribute to make a monster like that. What I mean is, Joey Drew is the little devil. Joey only appears in the book for a few pages, but in those pages, it's clear that he is a monster. Anyone that knows about the secrets of the ink machine are dealt with. No loose ends. But why waste a soul by simply killing them to shut them up, right? At the end of the book, Constance, the only remaining character not turned into an inky mess, is walking home to make more of her antidote when a car pulls up. A nice car. The passenger offers her a ride. She gets in and sits near a man who keeps repeating, "No escape, no escape." He's the Gent employee, Scott, that we run into several times in the story, and is the only one who calls Joey Drew the real monster. He too knows about the machine, and was Thomas Connor's right-hand man. The book ends with the car driving away, and then a passage about the Lost Ones, implying Constance, the last person who knows anything about the machine outside of the studio and Gent, is turned into a Lost One herself. I got a whole video on Joey Drew coming out, but I wanted to make sure I read this book first to get all the facts together. Be on the lookout for it in the coming weeks. And that's it. 5 questions answered by the book The Lost Ones by Adrian Kress. With the new game coming out soon, I've decided to compile all the lore we have available to us, from Dreams Come to Life, The Lost Ones, The Illusion of Living, and the game itself. Using this, I'm going to summarize and describe what we know about Bendy, the ink machine, and everything that surrounds it, as well as the theories I have about them. These videos will be something we can look back on and discuss as we continue the story in the second game. If you read the book, what were your thoughts on it? Did you enjoy the read? Who was your favorite character? What are some facts that you found interesting in The Lost Ones? As I know there were a few concepts that I left out for the sake of brevity. Leave your answers in the comments down below. And if you want to catch more of these Bendy lore videos, why not hit that subscribe button so you can see them going forward? Maybe even hit that like button to let me know that you like this one? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.